Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever it is, wherever you are, whoever you are, ladies, gentlemen, everybody else. Welcome to Nerd Week Live here on YouTube, brought to you by the the individual tonight, from Nerd Caliber. I'm Rodney Brown, the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, and I'm first-person shooter on Facebook as a cosplay photographer. I'm Burley_adopter on Twitter as a tech journalist and a bunch of other things, a bunch of other different places. Um, Various people on our team that you might normally expect to see here are dealing with certain things. Uh, my doppelganger Greg, the other bald-bearded guy, is just recovering from the flu. Not that flu. Golden, hello, welcome to the show. The regular flu. And yes, he had a doctor check that. So, and Gogo lives in Nashville and is dealing with the after effects. She's safe. Everybody's safe in her family and her friends, but she's still dealing with the after effects of the tornadoes in that area, which you may have seen if you've been watching the news. So it's me, which means it'll probably be a quick show, and we don't have a ton of topics anyway. Oddly enough, there wasn't a lot of stuff. Some things dropped at PAX East, and we'll get to that at the very end of the show. And there were some other things. In fact, just at the beginning, or just before I went live, I managed to cobble together the stuff that I need for something that dropped like minutes ago. Not huge news, but very interesting. So because of that, we will be a fairly quick and short show tonight, so I hope a bunch of people jump into the chat so we can, one, pad this thing, as they say in the broadcast industry, and also, two, so I can answer questions. Before we get into tonight's first topic, let's get to some promotional stuff. One of which we'll sort of cover in one of the topics because it's actually kind of related, but we will next be at Ace Comic-Con here in Boston, at the same place that PAX East was, the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center. That's the third weekend in March. We will also have people at Queen City Kamikaze, which is a wonderful little anime convention in Manchester, New Hampshire, where we'll be promoting our own cosplay and photography expo. cape.nerdcaliber.com if you want to check that out. Then after that, in April, in the second weekend of April, we will be at Anime Boston, as we always are. This year, in case you haven't heard, in case you haven't talked about this enough, Nerd Caliber is running the I'm running the photography department, and it is co-branded. The Cosplay Photo Suite this year is co-branded with Nerd Caliber and the Cosplay and Photography Expo. So if you're there, swing by the Cosplay Photo Suite, room 102, to get photos of you in cosplay. And then, gosh, we're going into like Fan Expo Dallas. We'll have people there. And then a bunch of things after that. MegaCon in Florida, in Orlando. Anyway. With all of that promotional stuff out of the way, we are going to get into our very first topic, and this is the big news that just dropped, or not necessarily that big news, but they finally, they named, after teasing that this guy was going to be in the cast for quite a while, Maxime Baldry, British actor, as a lead, they wouldn't exactly say which character, in the upcoming Amazon Lord of the Rings series. Now, you can see the image up on your screen there. I think he could play pretty much any one of the characters that are going to be in this story, which is set at the time when Sauron is tricking the elves and the men and the dwarves of the world into letting him create these rings of power and then giving them to them, not knowing that Sauron is in fact a bad guy. A spoiler alert if you don't know your Middle Earth or Lord of the Rings trivia. So I think this could be Sauron. I think this could be the person they finally cast as Sauron, because frankly, I think that's the most important announcement they're going to make. All of the other characters are very interesting, but I don't think any of them would warrant the kind of announcement that they just made about the fact that they've made this big casting, and that he is in fact going to be a lead, even though again they won't say exactly what that means, what character he's going to be portraying. Um, but they still have a few key roles to cast, according to Amazon co-head of TV Vernon Sanders. Um, and uh, this is actually from Deadline, where one of the reporters is reporting this as something that they have heard. Deadline is usually really solid, in my opinion, about when they have accurate sources, even if they can't name the sources. So again, that makes this technically a rumor, but it's a pretty solid rumor. Actually, I guess it's not really that solid. Yeah, no, I guess it's because they originally announced that he was under consideration for one of the roles, but back in January, but he hadn't actually been signed. No deal had been signed, which is another reason why it makes me think this may be Sauron, because it took a while for him to negotiate money for what could be the big bad lead of a long ongoing series. Um, so if this is true, I think it's really good, and it leads to one really funny thing. I didn't know who this guy was. He's a British actor. He's been in a bunch of TV series and a few movies, all British. Until I looked at IMDb, and that is Maxim Baldry. He played Caesar and Cleopatra's son, in one of my absolute favorite all-time TV shows ever made, the HBO series Rome. And he was a perfect snotty little entitled royal brat, which one assumes he has range, but again, that could lead to more believability of the fact that he's cast as Sauron. He already plays a entitled bratty character, or already has. So whoever Baldry is going to wind up playing, the adult Baldry, going back to that guy, not the kid. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the series a lot. Obviously, Amazon is dumping bucket loads of money into this thing, so it's going to be amazing. I think. I hope. Fingers crossed. Okay, moving on to our next topic. And this one just... So that just popped up on your screen there is, of course, one of the cast pictures of the movie The Lost Boys. One of the most wonderful, excessively 80s movies ever made. And the news is about the CW series that is rebooting the story, and they finally cast or announced the casts of some very important roles, including one of the sons, and it's taking the same storyline from the movie, where a mother and her two sons move to a small town, seaside town, which is infested with vampires. But they're aging them up. So I went to look for pictures of the people that have been cast, and I've not seen them in anything. These are all, they've all done some work, but these are all really, really young actors, or let's say they're not that young. They're really inexperienced actors. Let's put it that way. And they are much older than they were in the movie. They are calling these kids Gen Z sons. And Brandon Cook, who is in the series Industry, is going to be playing the older brother, who is named Garrett in this series, as opposed to Michael in the movie. A Lincoln Younes, Younes, whatever that means, or however, from the series Grand Hotel, is going to be playing Benjamin, who is the character that David was, or Kiefer Sutherland played, the character called David, leader of the gang of vampires, and a Ruby Cruz, And this I should have watched. She was in the second season of Castle Rock, and I haven't seen that yet on Hulu. We'll play Elsie, which is, yet again, a renamed version of Jamie Gertz's character from the movie that was named Star, who winds up falling for, in this case, Garrett, who was the new guy, and in the previous one, Michael, who was the new guy. It doesn't look like there's going to be anything remotely like the same. Nintendo fan, hello, welcome to the show. It doesn't look like there's going to be anything like the same sort of, younger brother humorous, shenanigans that was in the movie with the Coreys, Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, where they sort of first met and became the 80s bad boys that they ultimately turned into. So I'm not really sure if this is going to have any legs at all. I mean, it could be, if you look at how popular some of this stuff is, and frankly, CW has been killing it with a lot of their shows lately, but mostly that has been shows that are based on superhero stuff, based on DC characters. And I don't know that this is going to go anywhere. But I'm going to try it. I'll check it out. I'll give it a shot because, I'm that kind of guy. Moving on to another bit of casting. And this is, they finally named Yorick Brown the lead character of Y: The Last Man, the incredibly well-reviewed, highly considered comic book series that is coming to FX as a drama series. The gist of it is that there was some sort of horrible incident or plague which essentially wiped out all males in the human race on the planet, except for this guy Yorick and his pet monkey. And it's about what society becomes in trying to deal with the consequences of that. The fact that, clearly the future of the human race is problematic. This is the actor they've cast to play Yorick, Ben Schnetzer. And I didn't realize what he had done until, I looked on IMDb, and that is him playing the wizard trainee in the movie Warcraft. And that was probably one of the major reasons why I really didn't like that movie. Waifu Pennywise, welcome, cosplay of things. Welcome, cosplay of things I like. Welcome. And so Warcraft had its problems. It also had some amazing performances, particularly the CGI performances of the two lead orc characters. Toby Kebbell, I can't ever say enough good things about Toby Kebbell. But Schnetzer is apparently an indie darling, does a lot of indie movies. And in a movie in which everybody bought into the idea that we are making this sort of ridiculous high fantasy story, and it has to be portrayed in that sort of high fantasy methodology and attitude, very much like the Lord of the Rings movies or what have you, or Game of Thrones. Schnetzer played it like a 20-something wise-ass New York college kid. His performance was so completely inappropriate for the material. It was hard to watch at times, for me anyway. And so, now granted, playing Yorick, it's not necessarily the same sort of high fantasy thing, and he could just nail it. He could fit right in, but boy, if you were to throw a casting name at me to play this really important character, this would be one of the ones where I would kind of shake my head and go, really? That's your idea? And I'm sure I'm doing a disservice to Schnetzer. I'm sure he's a fantastic actor in all of these indie films. Pennywise, how's everyone? Well, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Greg is just now recovering from the flu. Go-Go, who is often on the show, as opposed to off and on, lives in Nashville and is still recovering from the effects in her community. She is safe. Her family is safe. Everybody's safe. Of the tornado that hit Nashville and the suburbs going east. So yeah, that's how everyone is. I'm fine. I didn't catch the COVID-19 at PAX East this year, so yay me. And I voted today, and so that's all good. Others in our team are dealing with issues. Anyway, so why the Last Man? The series is coming up soon. I think next year. And again, I'll give that a try, mainly because of the quality of the source material that it's taken from. But the one thing I've ever seen this guy Schnetzer in just completely turned me off from him. So we'll have to see how this works out. Moving on to our next topic. I don't know if you guys are anime fans. Some of you maybe. This is a promo image from the upcoming movie, Made in Abyss: Dawn of the Deep Soul, which is a sequel movie to the anime series Made in Abyss. I always want to put the article "the" in there because Made in Abyss just sounds wrong to an English speaker. But it's an amazing series. First off, if you've never seen the series, go watch it. If you're at all an anime fan. Greg, thanks for joining in on the typing and so much coughing, Greg says. Get that all out, Greg. Get it all out. Just get it all out somewhere away from me. The news is that the movie is going to have its North American premiere here in Boston at Anime Boston on April 11th. So if you are going to be at Anime Boston and you are a fan of anime in general, and Made in Abyss particularly, and if you're an anime fan, you better be a fan of Made in Abyss. It is outstanding. Then try to get a seat. I'm not sure how they're going to be doing this. I would assume it's going to be shown in the main theater of the Heinz Convention Center, which is enormous. But I'm sure it also can't hold everybody that attends Anime Boston. So it's probably going to be sold out. Not that they're selling it, as far as I know, but we'll see. Oh, you know what? More official screening info is at their website. Let's see if it says there's going to be any charge for that. Find showings. Calgary, Tempe. Oh, they're doing it. Here we go. They're doing it alphabetical, but Boston. So apparently it will be shown. Oh, I see. So the Boston showings are at regular theaters on dates after April 11th. So it's not saying anything about the premiere at Anime Boston on the website here, just in this news release. But I'm going to be trying to see it since I'm working at Anime Boston as the department manager for the photography department. Then I'm not sure that I'll have time, but boy, I'm going to try because Made in Abyss is an amazing series. And again, if you're an anime fan, I highly recommend you go check it out. Waifu, I like some random cool anime. Waifu, before I get into my next topic, throw out some of the ones that you like. Let's talk about a few of those. Greg, if only we were going to be at Anime Boston. Don't you get another flu, Greg. I need you in the studio. I really need you in the studio. So yeah, but it'll be, hopefully we can both go see it. And if you haven't seen Greg, if you haven't seen Made in Abyss, it might be worth checking it out before Anime Boston. Adrienne Hastings, hi, welcome to the show. We are right now just wrapping up, or hi. I don't know if you're hi, but you said hi, so I'll say it back. We are just now wrapping up our little coverage of the fact that the Made in Abyss movie, Made in Abyss: Dawn of the Deep Soul, is going to have its North American premiere at Anime Boston here in Boston on April 11th. So, woot and yay! That's really exciting. That's Saturday night. just to be sure. Yep. Um, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to try to get a chance to get out to see it. But then again, I assume most of my staff is going to also want to go see it. So we'll see how that works out if it's during open hours of the con. Adrienne, how am I? I am fine. All of our other people who might other be on the show are fine, although dealing with things right now, so that's why they're not on the show. Greg, who is in the chat, is recovering from the flu. Cough, cough. Gogo, who's often on the show, lives in Nashville, and while she is safe, her family's safe, workplaces are safe, she's still recovering or dealing with the effects of the tornadoes that hit the area. So that's how most of us are, I guess. That said, time to move on to our next topic, which is pun, Witcher news. What just appeared, or who just appeared on your screen, is in fact an actor named Kim Bodnia. And this is kind of bummer news for some people who are really looking forward to something, but he has just been cast as Vesemir in the second season of the Netflix series The Witcher. And that puts an end to all the speculation that was out there that Mark Hamill was going to be recruited to be Vesemir. There were so many fan art depictions of what he would look like as Vesemir. Groups that were formed just to try to get him to be cast to the show, and they picked this Kim Bodnia, who is most recently seen in the series Killing Eve, and from what I understand from anybody who's seen that, or Braun, or Braun, it has a weird double name, they say he's fantastic. He's an amazing actor. I have not seen any of his work. I looked through his IMDb, and none of the stuff is anything I've watched. Although Killing Eve is supposed to be an amazing series. But I think it's great. I think he looks the part. If you've not played the Witcher games, read the novels, you wouldn't necessarily know that this is the character who essentially trained Geralt and all the current generation of Witchers. One of the last of what they call the golden age of the Witchers, and he's a really important and interesting character. I think based on what everybody is saying about this guy as an actor, I think this is a really good choice. Although I absolutely would have loved to see Mark Hamill do it. I think he would have killed it. But yeah. The whole thing I think is filmed in Europe anyway, so it makes sense to cast a European actor. Most of the other cast is European. I think all the rest of the cast is European. I think. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at the credits for the show, but they all come across as European to me. So. Yeah, that's awesome. Good luck to him. I think he's going to kill it. I'm looking forward to season 2 very much, which isn't that far away. And there's a whole bunch of other cast members that they've announced, but we don't know what particular characters they're playing. And all of the cast that was there in the first season, the important characters coming back in the same roles. Anya Salotra as Yennefer, Freya Allan as Ciri, Joey Beatty as Jaskier. Toss a coin so hard it goes through his head, please. Not that I am sick of that song, but everybody's sick of that song. Anyway, so that's the news there. We've got our Vesemir, and it is not Mark Hamill. Boo, sad boo. All right, now we come to this. This is pretty interesting, folks. We talked about this when it was first announced. We talked about it when the first trailer came out. This is a scene from the newest and latest trailer for the Artemis Fowl movie, based on a bunch of young adult novels. And there's apparently an awful lot of Sturm und Drang, a lot of foment, a lot of anger out there among real fans of the novels because this trailer makes it pretty clear that they are tamping down on the fact that Artemis Fowl is a bad guy. He's a criminal. He kidnaps people to get what he wants. They say, anybody who makes a comparison to this series, because it involves magic and it involves elves and giants and dwarves and things like that, anybody who says that this series is, like Harry Potter, only in the fact that it deals with magical and mystical beings, is it like Harry Potter. The author hates that comparison and has called it the anti-Harry Potter. And that seems to be absolutely the case. This kid is more like Tom Riddle, with perhaps a little less murder and soul breaking than he is Harry Potter in any fashion. In the books. In the movie, it's pretty clear that he's the inheritor of a criminal mastermind's enterprise, but may not necessarily be doing the criminal things himself. And that's just got the fans of the books absolutely pissed off. That, and if you watch the trailer, some of the CGI is really pretty weak. I don't see this really going anywhere. If you have bad CGI and you piss off your core audience by changing the nature of the main character himself, not really sure how that's going to translate into success. Maybe you'll get a whole bunch of people who will see it, younger people who will see it and drag their parents and go, okay, this kid is my favorite, this is the best thing ever. I don't think so. As I wish I could take credit for this line, but I can't. As Greg said, looks like Disney is making that Disney Plus spin-off series, Little Men in Black. And, yep, nailed it. Jealous I didn't think of that one. But yeah, that's what it looks like. Without Will Smith, and therefore with a lot less fun and humor. So good luck to Disney on this one. Right out of the gate, it looks like they've shot themselves in the foot. So we'll see how this plays out. It is being released. Greg, type into the chat if you remember, or you've got up here when it's going to be released. Yeah, not in this article. So it's this year, I believe, and not that far away. The article does go on to talk about how it was, like the New Mutants movie, kind of messed up by the purchase of 20th Century Fox. Its release date, anyway, because this was supposed to be released last year. So you'd add that into all the other potential problems that are going on here, and Disney, they can't all be winners. All right, and now spring. That looks like the big guy from Harry Potter. Well, yeah, that's part of the thing. It's like, all right, so we've got this, and he is called a giant dwarf as opposed to a dwarf giant, which is what Hagrid was. Literally, he calls himself a giant dwarf. He is a dwarf, but he's just really, really big as a dwarf. But boy, he does look like Hagrid. You've got this, elf character who looks like a space elf. I don't know what's going on there. And then, you've got Butler. This guy's name is literally Butler, and he is apparently the butler for the Fowl family. So, Greg likes the series. He's read it. I haven't. So apparently, Nicole, it hid your message because it used the word idiot in there. But I'll put it out there because, one, I'm sure you're not an idiot. But do check it out. I mean, if you like particularly like we were talking about Artemis Fowl. So if you like young adult novels with mystical beings and magic and all that sort of stuff, uh, Greg likes it, and it's enjoyable. It's different because the main character is not, in fact, a goody two shoes. Um, Greg says, and for some reason, Dame Judi Dench is in this. Greg, that reason is called paycheck. Probably. Can't say for sure. But why not? And who would blame her? You got to make the money, right? All right, moving on to our last topic. This is not fan art. Borderlands or Gearbox actually made this for their panel at PAX East. It was up on the giant screen in the main theater at the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center when they were talking about upcoming stuff related to Borderlands 3, to all of this new stuff. They also talked a little bit, very quickly, about the Borderlands movie, which we talked about last week, and that has tapped Eli Roth to be the director. And Eli Roth, a Boston area native, was up on stage. He actually showed up at PAX East. And in fact, at one point, looking through some of the photos under the Instagram PAX East 2020 hashtag, I realized that he was about 30 feet away from where I was stationed taking pictures. And I did not go out and check out what all the hubbub was about. It was about, Eli Roth posing with a bunch of cosplayers right in the lobby. So, dang it, I believe is the appropriate and YouTube-friendly way of expressing that. But the news, unlike the news that we reported last week, oh, waifu, this is so good. Waifu, well, the space elf looks like a gender bend of the Green Goblin. Yes! Nailed it. Excellent. Good one. Good one. Anyway, Eli Roth said up on that stage that he loves the intensity of the Borderlands community, and he wants to cast a whole bunch of cosplaying Borderlands fans into the movie in minor roles so that he can kill them off in all of the wonderful ways that Borderlands characters get killed off. And I am 100% down with that. I don't know how much of this is going to be filmed in Boston. I'm assuming most of it's going to be green screen or on, studio lots out in Hollywood. So, chances are most of those Borderlands cosplayers would be ones on the West Coast anyway. But who knows? Maybe some of the local folks here who are deeply into the community might fly out there. I hope so. I've got so many cosplaying friends who love to cosplay characters within the Borderlands universe. Love to be able to watch that movie and go, hey, I know that person that just got their head blown off. And it's Eli Roth, so heads will be blown off. We talked about this last week when we discussed the fact that Roth was the one, yes, Greg, we need to promote Go-Go to be in as Moxie. Mad Moxie, please, please, please. Eli Roth, if you're listening, or when you listen, because I'm going to tag you in various things, so hopefully you'll see it and listen. Cast Go-Go Incognito as Mad Moxie. Just go to her page, her Facebook page, or Instagram, whatever, look it up, and done, sold, in my mind. But we were talking about people locally who are really into the community and the gore. So we talked about that a little bit last week when Greg and I were discussing the fact that Eli Roth had been cast for this. I'm not a huge fan of most of his movies because I don't like torture porn. And most of his movies are essentially torture porn. And frankly, his first sort of big hit, Hostel, is one of the worst constructed movies I've ever seen. It's 75% of the run is a slightly more foul-mouthed Euro trip, and then, like in an instant, changes there's no tension or build up. It instantly changes into boom. Here's the last quarter of the movie, and it's just straight up torture porn. Now, I haven't seen any of his movies since then, so I can't say for sure whether or not he's improved as a director. I certainly hope he has. I know people love his movies. I love him as an actor. I thought he was fantastic as the Bear Jew in Inglourious Basterds. But we'll see what he does with this. And if it's not even that great a movie, but he absolutely Nicole, I never go to any of these cons, but I'd love to go because it seems so interesting. So PAX East was a convention, yes, here in Boston. Big gaming convention. Penny Arcade has PAXs all over the world now. PAX South, the original PAX West, PAX Australia, PAX Unplugged outside Philadelphia, which is only about tabletop and role-playing games, no electronics at all. But if you're into video games or tabletop type games, PAX is one of the places you really should go. It's a lot of fun. But back about Eli Roth, even if all he does is make a mediocre movie that has a lot of people in it that I know, I'm good. Do it. Done. I'll watch it. I'll support it. Got to support our friends. And I hope that he will, in fact, make a better than mediocre movie. Video game movies, they get a pretty awful track record. Not the least of which what we were just talking about earlier, Warcraft. Now, Warcraft is made by one of my absolute favorite directors of all time, Duncan Jones, and it is not, in my mind, a good movie. It's very sad for me to say when I reviewed it. It was tough for me to watch, despite the excellent voice acting performances and motion capture from many of the orcs, because it was essentially a great big Easter egg filled wet kiss to fans of Warcraft and World of Warcraft, it took the plot too directly from lore, and the lore was written to support a video game, not to be a properly structured narrative for a movie. So that was a problem. And so many other video game movies have just been, awful. I mean, there's not really any other way to describe it. It's either horrible acting, horrible special effects, horrible directing, all of the above. Although I haven't seen Rampage, and I hear Movie Bob from The Big Picture actually kind of likes it. So it'd be interesting to see how that really compares as a video game based movie. I mean, it's not really based on the story of the video game necessarily, but it's inspired by. But it does feature the same creatures and characters and doing the same sort of stuff, rampaging through a city, as in the video game. So, but that's not Borderlands. Borderlands also has deep, deep lore, great backstories, fantastic characters. I'll give them that. That they do know how to write characters, even if they are video game characters. And characters are really what has to be there to drive proper plot and interesting narrative. So it's there for Eli Roth to take advantage of. Let's fingers crossed that he does so. And if he doesn't, again, if he just casts a bunch of my cosplay friends and kills them on screen, I'm good. I'm there. I'm down with that sickness. Nobody get the sickness. You know which one I mean. So that is it. That's our list. It was a short week. I did mention the Anime Boston stuff up ahead. We did have an awful lot of fun at PAX East, even if we did miss you, Greg. Mr. Krakowian, welcome to the show. And because I'm solo and there weren't that many things on, we're pretty much wrapping up here. Sorry you're late, and sorry we don't have more stuff to stretch out for you. But the galleries from PAX East are going up. The videos will be going up very soon. Oh, you were at C2E2? All right, we're not going to stop just now. How was C2E2 other than it was awesome, as you say? What was the coolest part of it? and we didn't get a Team C2E2 this year. We're pretty spotty about that. It's like every other year we're able to, make things work out that we can get somebody there. Fingers crossed that we'll be able to get that to be a regular thing. Having it on the same weekend as PAX, which happened last year, as I recall. In fact, as I recall, last year there were 3 big cons on the same. All right. Well, in that case, we're signing off. Mr. Krakowian, you have a great week as well. And thank you all for joining in. As I was saying, the PAX East galleries have started going up. The videos will be going up here on YouTube pretty soon. Yeah, the cosplay was the best part of C2E2. Mr. Krakowian says. For us, that's it too. I mean, I like the swag from PAX East. I like seeing my friends that I don't see at any other convention because these are the ones that are almost entirely just gamers. That's really cool. But cosplay photography is what I do. It's why I'm there. And yeah, there was some awesome cosplay, man. Oh, and our panel. So we had a panel Friday afternoon called the Advanced Cosplay Q&A, and it was literally just a Q&A. Our panelists were incredibly talented, expert cosplay crafters, Steel Shield Cosplay, Sledgehammer Creative, and Lucky Grim Creative. We almost packed the Cuttlefish Theater. We had questions right up until literally the last couple of minutes. We were rushing to get in that last person's question and answer. It was really great, and of course it was there to help promote our event that is essentially an entire weekend of just that. It is the Cosplay and Photography Expo. It's in Mansfield, Mass, July 18th and 19th this year, and it is panels about how to do anything, make anything, or perform anything in cosplay, the photography or the video of the same of cosplay. Multiple panel rooms. There'll be panels, overlapping panels all day. There's a dealer's room. There is a studio space where if you're a photographer and you've never worked with studio lights, we will have 3 studio setups where you can just come in, sign out a trigger for the lights, and go play to your heart's content. Well, usually keep it like 15 or 20 minutes because other people want to play to their heart's content. We'll have an after party Saturday night. And it's a lot of fun. You learn an awful lot. It's inexpensive, but tickets jump by $5 for the weekend coming up on March 21st. Well, actually, it's the end of March 21st, so like March 22nd, the tickets will be going up, which will be their last jump. That's it. But if you're interested, check out cape.nerdcaliber.com, CAPE being the acronym for Cosplay and Photography Expo. If you're anywhere in the Northeast, or if you want to fly in, that's cool too. Check it out, and I hope you can come. It's a lot of fun. Greg is always there, of course. Started out literally doing photography as a joke in our very first Cape, and look where he is now. Wonder Llama Photography. Check him out. Anyway, that's it, folks. Thanks. I've stretched this out to almost 45 minutes. Yay! Thanks for the chats helping me do that. And I will see you folks next week with yet another edition of Nerd Week Live. In the meantime, stay safe. Wash your hands a lot. Don't be afraid of going out and doing things. Just, wash them hands. Cover that mouth to cough. Don't get a face mask. Unless you're sick, then get a face mask because you're protecting us. Wearing a face mask isn't going to protect you. Or it's not going to protect you anymore. This, washing your hands, is what does it. So anyway, don't get sick. See you next week. Bye-bye.